Hey everybody, here we have this Evrex Impact GA3400 PC, and there's something pretty special about it. First glance you probably think, oh, it's just a regular old computer system. I mean, it's just a regular, Socket 754 Athlon 64 with an Enforce motherboard. This basic run-of-the-mill computer. Let's have a look at the front here. It's got a DB burner and a card reader, but there's something unusual about this computer. This right here might be a little bit of a clue. Notice it says Mobile Athlon. It's a Mobile Athlon 64. For those who aren't familiar with AMD's Socket 754 setup, AMD did actually release several processors on Socket 754 that were deemed mobile CPUs for notebooks. Here's a CPU. Notice, from this side it looks like a regular, Socket 754 CPU, but you turn it around this way, it looks different. Notice the heat spreader's missing. If you have a look here, it looks like you can see where there's some glue or something that could have installed a heat spreader. Well, actually, I think this is from the stuff on the heatsink, but anyways, just have a look at that. What you're seeing is the actual chip die. And this is how mobile processors and notebooks are designed. See, years ago, desktops and notebooks did not have heat spreaders, but of course, over time, desktop CPUs started to include heat spreaders on their chips. That way, the die wouldn't be exposed, and it would more efficiently spread the heat out across the top of the CPU to get better performance out of the heatsink. But of course, in this case, the mobile processors, they never did use heat spreaders, because in notebooks, if you watch my video about how notebook's cooling system works, you'll notice that inside a notebook you'll have just a heat pipe that runs between the Northbridge chip and the CPU to the back side of the notebook where there's some fans in the fan. So that's why notebook CPUs do not have heat spreaders. And in some cases, these notebook processors, like I say, you can install these particular ones on desktop motherboards. Normally you can't do that, but there are some select few notebook CPUs that are compatible with desktop platforms. And I may end up trying to see how well this CPU here will overclock, because sometimes mobile CPUs will overclock very well because they are designed to be efficient CPUs, so they run cool and don't draw much power. I'm not so sure about whether this machine here actually works. I'm going to drop in another CPU and try it again. I think the CPU was not getting a good connection with the heatsink, so it didn't stay on for long. So I'm going to go ahead and just drop in another Socket 754 CPU and see if I can get this thing to fire up. It came with 512 megabytes of RAM and a PCI graphics card, and I think this machine was $19.99 at the Computer Works store. And of course, power supply that was originally in it, I pulled out and installed into a recent machine that I serviced. Anyways, just going to drop in another CPU so I can get this thing to fire up. Okay, I dropped the CPU on this thing and another heatsink, and I managed to get it to work just fine. It started right up. So, what I'll definitely do to this motherboard before I put it into full service is take the Northbridge and Southbridge heatsinks off and get the pink stuff off, clean them up real good, and install some fresh thermal compound to the chips. So that way this board here won't have to be reflowed sometime down the road. At least I hope not. And I don't think I did too bad for 20 bucks. Got a really weird processor, a mobile AMD processor based on Socket 754, and I got a working motherboard, and I'm pretty sure this DVD drive will work just fine too. This is probably like a decent refurbished computer. Anyways, any questions or comments, feel free to ask.